Good evening, Mr. Nkoma. Thank you for joining me on S24.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on the program.
So earlier on this afternoon, we did speak with a member of parliament within the DA, Mr. Jordan Hill-Lewis, and he had this to say. I'd like you to take a listen. I see. So, Mr. Hill-Lewis, I need to ask, do you think that the diplomatic channels should have been utilized, though? Because we do have embassies, we do have spokespeople, we do have other ways other than social media to vent grievances with certain decisions in other nations. Why do you think that these were not utilized?
Well, diplomats are very good at talking and very bad at achieving anything. That's actually the purpose of their job, is just to talk and smooth things over and sweep things under the carpet. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with expressing your opinion openly on social media or anywhere else in an interview like the one that we are doing right now, to say that we disagree with this action. We are seriously concerned about it, and in our view, it is wrong.
So now, Mr. Nkoma, I have to ask you, the refusal to use diplomatic channels when it comes to central banks, in particular when it comes to appointments, what do you have to say about the Bank of Zambia's sovereignty and SADC diplomacy in general when it comes to fiscal matters?
Well, I think the central bank independence is something that many have advocated for, and I think this conversation now, I think it amplifies the need for the real independence of the central bank. Because I think looking at the functions and the roles of the central bank government, it's a nerve center of the economy of any country. And any chaotic transition is bound to have immense implications on the economy, which basically is not desirable for any country. Now, if you look at just by the roles that the central bank governor has, it's both the CEO of the central bank, and most importantly also, he doubles as a board chairman. This is a practice all over the world. Now, that alone defines the gravity of the responsibilities that he has. So we should, I think, as a country, begin to engage in terms of how do we secure the tenure of the central bank governor going forward, so that we can avoid uncalled for instability in the financial market.
I see.
Then coming to the SADC involvement in this whole thing, I think Tito has put it very clearly that I think the SADC governors do speak for the independence of the central banks. And I think because of the passionate connection that he has, having been a governor before, I think he could have overstepped his boundaries, which I think the government of the Republic of South Africa has been able to correct.
So you would say that Mr. MBOWENI was speaking more from a personal standpoint than he was speaking from a professional standpoint?
No, I think it was not a government position, so to speak. It was more of him having once served in that position. I think it was an emotional kind of attachment to the role or the job of the central bank governor. So I think he did qualify that.
Sorry to cut you short there, but I just had to ask you, when we spoke to Mr. Hill-Lewis, and I did ask him about his thoughts about how our relationship should be with South Africa and Zambia going forward. Should we all just be speaking out as diplomats and as politicians on our social medias about certain moves that maybe our neighboring countries should make? And he said that when it comes to issues that have to do with human rights or infringements, he says that he doesn't see the problem. What would you have to say to that?
Well, I think governments have got a way of engaging each other. You know, there's the Vienna diplomatic protocols, which I think have to be respected. And if a minister speaks, it is considered as a government position. So I think, to me, it is different if an opposition party, like the DA has spoken, speaks, because they don't represent government. They represent the position of the political party. So there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it becomes an issue when it's government to government. And those people who are holding government appointments basically should know how to be able to put their points across. So I think that is exactly what the Honorable Minister of Information was saying.
I see. Another concern that seems to be going around on the ground is Mr. Mvunga's qualifications. And do you think that he's fit to lead the Bank of Zambia?
Well, I did qualify that in my earlier statement to another news platform. First of all, he's eminently qualified. And why do I say so? This is a person who has held very important roles, not only in government as a Deputy Minister of Finance, he has also held the position of Deputy Secretary to Cabinet, responsible for finance and economic affairs. And the central bank is one of his responsibilities, so to speak. Now, first of all, you have to understand, what are we questioning here? Is it a qualifications of Mr. Mvunga, or we are questioning the competencies of Mr. Mvunga? Now, if somebody has been able to be appointed to those high and very important positions, because mind you, Deputy Secretary to Cabinet is the number 2 civil servant, that alone speaks to the credentials of the person who has been appointed. He has got a banking background, and he's also got an accounting qualification. So a combination of all these and his roles in various appointments in banks before should be able to put him in a very strong position to command the central bank.
Much, Mr. Nkoma, for joining me.
Thank you, appreciate it, and have a good evening.
You too.